Hello there, traveler. Welcome to the GRIDLIFE drivers meeting. I'm Kyle Heyer. If you don't know me, you probably at least heard me before. We just got back from Lime Rock Park and GRIDLIFE Circuit Legends basically yesterday. I got back to my apartment at like 4 in the afternoon. Stayed home in Rochester with my dad on Sunday night. But what an event, man! Circuit Legends never disappoints. I think I haven't really talked in a long time since Sunday, basically. My voice is warm. Hello there, traveler. Hi, Matt. I'm really stoked to be here because we've got two really great guests tonight. We've got Jordan Wisley and Willem Drees from KDM Tuners. They're going to join us sequentially tonight, so we're going to get about 30 minutes with each, talk about what's going on in their world. They didn't make it out to Lime Rock. We're going to talk about why, for at least Willem. I'm not exactly sure what Jordan's up to, but we're going to check in with them and talk about their Hyundai Veloster N and then the Elantra N that William Drees was driving. And again, chat, we're going to pass along your questions to the drivers. So if you're curious about anything in particular or a build, these guys are well suited. So we're going to get right into it because Jordan's already here. So we'll recap the Circuit Legends event a little bit more at the tail end, and then maybe a little bit into next week as well. But high-level notes, we saw some records fall. Front-wheel drive unlimited record to Jim Rauch. Rear-wheel drive crack mod to Jackie Ding. And then, let's see, Dewey rebroke his own all-wheel drive record. That was a solid run. Street GT and Street Class, no major shifts and shuffles here. Eddie Siegel broke the front-wheel drive street record. And then Peter Gramberg and Evan McLaren both resetting a rear-wheel drive and front-wheel drive Falcon Club TR records. And this 56.8 is ridiculous. Peter Gramberg really, really fast. And, of course, Sam Dooling, 103. Job well done as well. So let's bring in Jordan Wisley and have a chat with him. I'm excited to get to chat. I don't know that we've really talked a whole lot. So let's bring in Jordan now. All right, Jordan, how are you, man?
Doing good, Kyle. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us. This was an exciting one. Josh reached out a couple weeks ago and asked if you guys could join me and have a little chat on this sort of new show we're doing. And for me, this is great because I don't get a chance to talk to you guys a whole lot during the weekend because they're so busy. But first of all, let's get things out of the way. Where'd you come from? What do you do? How'd you end up at GRIDLIFE?
To end up at GRIDLIFE, so I was racing in IMSA with Hyundai. Was racing for a satellite team there and in conjunction with BHA. And we do a lot with the in clubs and getting to meet those guys. It's such a fun group to meet because everyone's so enthusiastic and like-minded. So for me, I really stayed from the first time doing a bunch of in club stuff. I really stayed with those guys. And I met Josh and I met Mike and Will and everybody. And they're like, hey, man, we've got this team. We've been running Time Attack, but there's this new class that GRIDLIFE is starting, GLGT. And we want to put together a wheel-to-wheel, racing campaign for the full season. I said, guys, I'm in. They'd show me some pictures of the Veloster that they were building. And I was like, this looks so fun. Obviously coming from, I've driven the Veloster TCR, I've driven the Elantra TCR. So it's just so much fun. And GRIDLIFE they're really, really doing something that nobody isn't doing, and it's bringing that entertainment piece to the races. I think it's so needed. So that's been a super fun and easy transition for me. But yeah, IMSA with the in-club guys and then to GRIDLIFE.
For sure.
But I'm not leaving.
Well, I think the really cool thing for me was when I saw that car roll up. I think it was at Gingerman Raceway because that was the debut of GLGT. I saw that car roll up, and I didn't know much about it, but it rolled off the trailer, and it looked so much like one of the Gen Racer TC cars. And I asked if it was one because it was so well built. So take me through, your understanding of the car, what's been done to it, because it looks like a factory race car. It's unbelievable.
I know. I can't shout out Josh and KDM Tuners and the sponsors enough. Liquid Molly came through huge, Koenig Wheels, Doobie Moto, and all the effort that everyone's put in. But Josh and Eli and the guys at KDM, they went through. So they originally were going to turn this thing into a Time Attack car. So they kind of like went at it with the mindset of like, okay, this thing needs to go fast for a few laps and then chill. And then, as you know, trying to go wheel to wheel and extend the heat, just the life of everything. It's two different cars, so credit to Josh and the team. They started out doing a time attack car, and then when the GLGT class was announced, they're like, we got to do that. We're going to use this car. So within about 3 months, they went in and this went from being a time attack car to they switched it all over. When you get in this car, when you look in there, it is TC America grade, race car. So it looks like a completely purpose-built race car. You would not believe that they took this thing from scratch and made this.
And so that begs me to the question, like, it has to drive pretty good because it looks great. I know I want to get into Road America in a little bit because I know that there was some fun fixes applied to this car. I'd love to dive into that. But how does this car drive? Like, how would you sort of, from your driving experience from IMSA, sort of relate it to a TCR car? Obviously, it's not going to make probably quite as much pace as one of those, but I'm interested in your perspective as to how they might compare.
So what was so funny about this is it's got more power than it's got a better power to weight ratio than the TCR cars, right? And the TC cars. So straight line, it actually, this thing will beat those cars. But where the TC and TCR cars get it is those factory race components in the suspension. So it's cornering for us. And then the transmission, we run an H pattern transmission there. And as you know, most of our competition in the GT class is sequential up there. So that's kind of, but it handles really, really dang well for the amount of power that this thing has. No traction control, and so it is to be putting down over 300. I think at Road America we were running on the dyno. I think we had we run 341 horsepower, something like that. And it's right at 3,000 pounds. I think we were 2980. Some 85, coming off the track. So it awesome with the feeling in the seat. Awesome. It just needs those little, extra components and extra things that we can dial in when it comes to suspension. And that's it.
Yeah. So I've had some experience driving the Elantra N, just the road car, because GRIDLIFE had one for a year. And I got a chance to track it a little bit as well, and I was blown away by how good those things are in very stock form. We'll talk with Willem Drees a little later about that car in particular. But the N line of cars seems like they're really well suited to turn into race cars. And one of the other things is, working on the SRO side as well, familiar with the TC Elantras and how they actually use some of the factory electronics in the modes in the car, in the race car. Is that sort of similar with this, where there are some sort of some things left over on the electronic side, or is it pretty much stripped down to the shell and rebuild up?
A lot. Yeah, we actually do have a lot of the electronics left over. We still flip it into in mode, everything
so cool.
when we're going out. Yeah. And Kyle, I agree so much. It's not very often that a brand or a company's street cars are even close to their race cars. And who does it well is BMW, who's done that really well, right? Well, where the N comes from, right? The same guy who created the M series with BMW is the guy who is behind the N series. And that's the same mind, the same way of thinking, the same strategy. And so it is no surprise to me how freaking good off a showroom floor an inline model can be in anything. I drove an inline Kona around for a while. It is so much fun. So if anybody's looking for something like that, one, they're great to turn into race cars. Two, it's a great street car that feels like a race car. You really feel the setting changes when you change those electronics in the suspension and in the engine. So I thought that Hyundai has done an amazing job in the last few years at revamping their line and making it very fun.
Yeah, they're super, super cool. Tell me a little bit about KDM tuners and the team dynamic there, because it's not super often that we have a team dynamic playing out in the paddock across different classes. There are a handful, turning concepts, ASM are some other great examples, but matching liveries on your car and Willem's Elantra, super cool. So tell me how instrumental the KDM tuners guys are in keeping yourself tuned up for the race week.
Dude, it is. And, in grid life, most people, this is it. I love grid life because it is still grassroots, but then you can get that feel. You have the freedom to get that feel of professional racing. And yeah, for us, that was very important to come in matching trailer, both cars matching, and really put on that credible. We want that credit of like, dude, KTM tuners in the team may be a 4 to 5 man team when we get out there, but we're going to perform like a 12 and 14 man team, and they do, and like you kind of touched on it. And this is Road America, and just to give this story a little bit, I think to jump to it will also show the type of team and the type of tenacity that these guys have. They just don't quit. So we come out, Gingerman, like I said, they built this car in 4 months. After a month of building it, they decided to switch it from time attack to this thing needs to actually run for a long time. So 3 months after that decision, we really didn't have the testing. We really on-track testing was probably 30 minutes. And
oh my gosh.
it was just, and so Gingerman was that test for us. We weren't able to finish a single session because of heat, we just had heat issues and stuff like that. That was really our testing session, but we made a commitment to be there. And even though we knew it was going to be tough, we all made the decision together. We're going to make the journey, haul the trailer and everything out there and get the experience. And it was awesome. Then we come to, what was after?
Probably Mid-Ohio.
It was Mid-Ohio. Yeah, we come to Mid-Ohio. Now we're getting full sessions in, right? Now we're getting real data from this car, and we're stoked, and not one time was everyone like, man, 'cause everyone has expectations. You come to the track, you're like, this is going to be great.
Yep.
This is going to be a great weekend. We're going to be on the podium. And when it doesn't happen, it can really hurt the team. Not one time did the team like ever get down or anything. Everyone stayed positive, found the positives in every weekend, and then was able to come Road America with a sturdy car and really put in some laps. Qualified fifth, fifth or sixth, I think, in race one. Went from fifth to third in corner one. By corner two, we get taken out from the rear end, bust up the suspension, we're done, and we start looking around. We call Hyundai. I even went down to the BHA trailer, talking to the team. They didn't have the part that we needed, and we needed a tow link, rear tow link. And we call Hyundai. They go, there's 3 in the United States at all, and none of them are near Wisconsin. We're like, okay, well, we think we're done. Well, Josh Sadler, owner at KTM, he refuses to quit. And this guy, I don't even know how you would find this, but he runs back into the RV after we've got the note, like, oh, we can't get it. We're sitting there for about 10, 15 minutes. He runs back in the RV. He goes, guys, there's a tractor store down the road, and I think they have something that might fit. I'm going to go get it, and let's just see. We're like, all right, screw it. He brings back this part. It's threaded the exact way that we need it to be threaded. All we need to do is like cut it shorter. He puts it in there, screws this thing in, and it works. Not only that does it work, but it's a heavy duty. It's more heavy duty than the other one. We go out there, we roll up to the line at the 3-minute call. Like 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yep.
I'm putting my crap on. I ran up to the false grid because they had to take it to the gas station to fill it. We hadn't done anything.
Yep.
So we get on the grid, we start last. We end up finishing that race 6th. Right? Came from last to 6th, started 6th, got to 4th, right? And then finished the last race in 2nd for an overall of 2nd. And dude, it was the best feeling to have the team, like, to come home with some hardware. We stuck it out. To think, I had already changed my flight.
Oh, no.
I had already confirmed with Will and Josh and everybody else, like, we're probably not going, right? And I was like, all right, well, there's no sense in leaving Monday. It's Saturday.
Yep.
So I guess we'll just go home. And everyone was like, okay. And then so I had to call after the race. I had to call American back and be like, no, change my flight again. Yeah.
So you sort of touched on it a little bit because, one of the things that, again, having been at GridLife now for 6 years, what I've seen is, this is sort of grassroots racing elevated up a level, right? Like the racing is still grassroots. You can still show up with an open trailer and compete. You do have some team and manufacturer presence, but it's presented at a really high level. But there's these stories like yours. I think Dewey DeWitt, who's one of our time attackers we talk with all the time, who's on the broadcast last weekend, he's all into this idea of if it's stupid and it works, it's not that stupid,
Right.
And I think like a Tractor Supply fix is an amazing story. So I guess
it worked so good, Kyle,
Sure.
that Josh, after everything, he goes, guys, I'm actually going to order another one of those and replace the other one. We'll have the OEM as a replacement. And he goes, but these are so heavy duty that I don't think they'll ever break.
Yeah, so I guess that's the other question was like, you mentioned running in IMSA with the Veloster and the Elantra, and the BHA trailer being nearby. That's for those that aren't aware, the Brian Herta Autosport team was there because they were getting loaded in for the next weekend IMSA race. How much is different, like on a Hyundai Veloster N versus a non-N, or maybe even like the Veloster TCR? Like, are there parts that carry over from one to the other?
There's some. Yeah, but once you start getting into the N, when you graduate, you get some trick parts. There is some trick stuff that goes into, especially the electronics, and then from there up to the TCR out of an inline, the engineering is just so freaking awesome. The way that it can be adjusted and things are like made to pack in there, but then also like you can adjust the rebound, you can adjust the camber. We can literally do everything from right there in a very easy way. So that's kind of what makes it like so race, like if you're not in that race setup, you just don't have all the things to tinker with. And it blows my mind all the time. But there are parts on the TCR cars that are on street cars. That are on the street cars. So like it is a real hodgepodge of race engineering, but there is so much of Hyundai's race engineering in their street cars that they're able to kind of like, mix all this stuff together.
It seems like there's a pretty sizable culture of N owners. And you mentioned the Hyundai N clubs, and we've seen that at GRIDLIFE events. I think definitely at Lime Rock Park we've seen that. I think at WeatherTech Race with Laguna Seca we saw that as well. But it seems like these cars are getting more and more popular with the enthusiast crowd. And I know, again, we're going to talk with Willem later about the Elantra N, but just from my own experience, they seem like they're like really capable pretty much right out of the box.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to drive like stock-ish ones on the track a bunch?
Oh yeah. So one of my favorite things to do with Hyundai, and one of the things that Hyundai's marketing team does really well is outreach to clients and people, owners, and making it fun. So we do a lot of, and actually one of the reason why the BHA trailer was there so early, yes, they had IMSA after, but Hyundai was doing on track. So they had Mason Filippi, Harry Gottsacker, and Preston DuPont there driving in street cars. They did have a TCR car out there that they bolted a passenger seat. So like some lucky people got to experience that. But they were going out there in the inlines with just pro drivers pushing these things, and people were getting out and they're just like, whoa, I had no idea like street cars could do that. So that is actually one of my favorite things. So I've got to get in the Elantra N, the Kona N, and the Veloster inline and fly around road. We've done Road Atlanta, we've done Laguna Seca, we've done Road America, and they are pretty dang good, man. They are really good.
Mark Kilgore is one of our time attack competitors, is asking, what's the engine setup and cooling upgrades for the GLGT?
So what we really had to do, we actually ran the stock radiator, but you need to add an oil cooler specifically, just that extra cooler up there in front, in a vent. So adding the oil, we tried all these things, like messing with the tune, things like that. It just wasn't enough. By the end of the race or by like lap 7, 8, like that, the temperature's up there. Oil cooler did the trick. We also cut some vents into the hood. That was actually Will. Will does stuff. You have to ask him about all of his carbon fiber stuff, because all of our carbon fiber custom parts are made by Will. But yeah, he made us some vents. So a little bit of added air and the oil cooler, you should be set.
Awesome. Let's pivot a little bit to more grid life and your experience driving different tracks around the country in IMSA or what have you. We've got a handful of tracks left on the calendar. I don't know off the top of my head which ones you're signed up for, but can I expect Laguna Seca to be your next event?
Yep. No. Chicago.
Oh, nice. You're going to be there. Great. That's not too long from now. That's awesome. So we'll see you there.
Yeah. We'll be Chicago and Laguna.
Awesome. So of the tracks on the calendar, were there ones that you hadn't been to before? I imagine Gingerman was probably new to you.
Yep. Gingerman and Chicagoland will both be new for me.
Okay, so I'm curious on your thoughts when we see at Chicagoland, what your thoughts are there. What did you think of Gingerman Raceway? That's our home track. It's special in its own way, but compared to all the other tracks that you've been to, tell me about the challenges of learning a new track with that car.
Yeah. So
both at once.
Coming in, that was our first real testing. You know what I mean? So I'm still learning the car and learning the track, so that was a double whammy. But Gingerman was super fun. One of the awesome things about Gingerman is very safe, right? There's a lot of places where you could get off and be fine, not have to worry about anything except for maybe a barbed wire fence and some cattle. But I really enjoyed it. It's a really fun racy setup. You know, the S's through there, coming and then having that double apex left through there. It's a really fun track. I thought it was really racy. I thought it raced really well in all the other groups too. Gingerman. Also, I have an affinity for those kind of out there, flat tracks because my home track is Hallett Motor Racing Circuit. Yeah, in Tulsa or Jennings. And so I have an affinity for those out there tracks that are just for the love of racing,
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have a favorite track that you've? I'm assuming you have a favorite track, but what is your favorite track? Everything that you've raced on.
Of everything. So I think Sebring is so fun. It is with other cars. It's so fun. There's so many places to pass. There's so many different lines and okay, I know this. I'm gonna sacrifice. I know I'm about to jump the car on on this bump, but we're sending it. Sebring's really fun, and then VIR race is really good. And I just finished this past weekend. I did the 24 hours of VIR with Champ Car.
Nice.
And VIR is just so much fun.
So I'll ask this question as a supplement. If you could add one grid life event and include the aura, the festival, that sort of thing in your calculation, what would be a track that you would add to this schedule?
Okay, I'm going to throw this one out first just because I think it is one of the best tracks in America or around for the spectator, for the in-person spectator, and that's Barber Motorsports.
Okay, sure. I'm on board. We've had a lot of people talk about that.
Sit in the main grandstand and see 87% of the track. You only miss 2 or 3 corners, right? But you get 4 or 5 different straightaways. So for the fans, that's a really good. It's also beautiful. You know, they keep it very manicured. And then, but if for the vibes, for to take a festival to, I think a good one. I'm gonna have to go to my home to Hallett. I would love to see Hallett because they have the vibes, they have the space, and the upgrades that have been made at Hallett over the last few years. It literally just got a repaving a couple weeks ago. So this thing is begging for cars to come and work that pavement in. But it's got a really good layout and undulation for stages and to have kind of natural amphitheater.
Sure.
So
That's cool.
As someone in the entertainment industry, I kind of look at those things and I'm always oh, wouldn't that be sick if there's a stage down there? And then you said people going up. So yeah,
that's cool. I've never been to Hallett. I've been to Barber. I'm actually headed there not this weekend but next. And Barber's a fun racetrack as well. It's is it next weekend? 2 weeks. 2 weeks from now, go to Barber for SRO. Trex in the chat asked Jordan about his car getting stolen at Road America.
Oh my gosh, guys! Not only was Road America an insane thing for on the track, but okay, I am literally about to get in the car for race 1. Okay, so mind you, this is insult to injury that we got taken out in race 1 because I just got this phone call. So I used to have a Range Rover Defender. It's not. You wouldn't expect it to be an easy car to steal, right? And I get a notification from my Range Rover app that your car has been unlocked. And I'm like, And I mistakenly forgot to leave the keys. I had the keys in my backpack. because we had just like moved the car and driveway, all this stuff, right? So I go, oh, that's weird. Not 3 seconds later, I get a notification from my license plate app that said the license plate had been detached. And I'm like, what the heck? So I call my roommate and I'm like, dude, you gotta go. Will you go outside and see if somebody's stealing my license plate? He's like, yeah. He goes outside. While he's on the phone, he goes, Rusty, your car's not here. And I go, what? And so immediately we start this whole thing. And then the bureaucracy and the red tape of like Range Rover having the location, but couldn't give it to the police until we had a police report and all this stuff. All in all, moral of the story, or like, where we are now is the car still has not come back. Car's still gone. The location that keeps pinging, the cops have confirmed twice that it's not in this location. So, but Range Rover says that they dislocated the engine block. So basically this car is stranded somewhere, and just people are probably just pissing in the seats and like, doing whatever. Yeah.
Who knows now, right? But that's unfortunate. I guess that weekend could have gone better in a number of ways. But hey, still ended up with the hardware anyway.
We came home with a podium. So that was the replacement, for that.
I want to talk to you a little about GLGT because it's a new class this year, and obviously, like at Road America, there was a lot of attrition. A lot of these cars are home built, right? And it's still building up, and I think we're all sort of excited for what's coming. Again, we'd like to see entries be 2025 cars a race, but it's taken some time to get there. What would be the reason for other competitors to come on into GLGT and bring their cars? What would you say from your experience, having been in the paddock for about a half a season?
I think this is the best grassroots way and the easiest point of entry to, like you said, be able to roll up with an open air trailer and run some of the best tracks in the world. 100% some of the best tracks in the country, but the best tracks in the world, and really get a feel for, I mean, like you said, there are some factory teams out there, and they're the trailers and the haulers and the way GRIDLIFE puts everything, they really make you feel like you're an IMSA race. You know what I mean? Like you feel like one of these buttoned up IMSA guys, and that is really cool. When people are spending the amount of time and money that is spent on these cars and to get to these tracks and the hauler and the families and the people and the crew, all for these drivers and these cars to go run circles, I think it's awesome what GRIDLIFE is doing to give these people something to look forward to. Like it's not just, okay, go run what you brung. No, you feel like a pro out there. It is very, and I've been lucky enough to be at all different sizes of races, and GRIDLIFE does such a good job at making everyone feel important. And that's what I think is awesome for the amount of time and money put in. Is we want to go out there and feel like this is a credible governing body and a credible place that we're at, and it does. It presents well, it interacts well, it entertains. I think that what they do with like the gaming tent and having the Sims that people can get on, and cornhole and foosball and Xbox and PlayStation, it's so family oriented. I always feel bad for my family, half the time we're at the track, because I'm like, all right, you guys have been here for 8 hours. Here we go for the race,
Yep.
GRIDLIFE does an amazing job. I was happily surprised. I had no idea about GRIDLIFE until last year. Laguna last year was my first race. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And this is going to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here, and we've got Willem hanging out in the waiting room as well. And I want to thank you for coming on, Jordan, and I look forward to seeing you at Autobahn. It'll actually be kind of nice because Autobahn is going to be, it's not quite the huge massive thing that Midwest Festival Road America are, which I think gives like an intimacy that is sort of necessary, also a good balance of these different events. I think you're really going to like Autobahn. I've been told by the drivers, I've never lapped it at speed, I've ridden around there, that it's one of the best racetracks that we have on our calendar from a passing opportunity and racecraft perspective.
Heck yeah.
So looking forward to it. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me tonight, and have a good evening. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Hey, tell Will I said hi. Thank you very much.
I will. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it.
See ya.
See ya. All right, Jordan Wisley from KDM Tuners. Let's bring in Willem Drees now and have a chat with the driver of the number 466 Hyundai Elantra N. Hey, Willem, how are you, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. How are things? I've got to switch over my my guest thing. There we are. All right, man.
Good.
Well, thanks for joining me tonight. This was, again, Josh hit me up a couple weeks ago, and he's like, man, you got to have the guys on and chat what's going on in their worlds. And I think it might have been before Road America, but we're super happy to have you on now. But I want to first start with, as we have with everyone this year, I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to the drivers as much as I would have liked because things are always chaotic at festivals.
Sure.
Who is Willem Drees? Where do you come from, and how'd you end up at GRIDLIFE?
I've been driving, I'm just an enthusiast, just like everyone else. Got into time attack 15 years ago, maybe more. Just been driving out here on the West Coast a whole lot, anything I could drive. Building cars over the years, ran some events of my own, and then just got, hooked up with some people that were interested in doing a GRIDLIFE, and had a couple conversations. Said, hey man, this is something we could do. Let's go ahead and do this thing. So see what we could make happen. So. Luckily, this season was, last year actually, was lucky enough to do Laguna the year before, then Laguna this, and then directly into Thunder Hill. And then it was like, hey, we got something here. Let's see what we can do. So we made a go at it this time around, and we're learning a lot for sure.
Absolutely, and you're running an Elantra N in street class, and I know that we'll get to that in a minute, but currently you're scored 4th in the standings after the position swaps here post Lime Rock. 65 points. Eddie Siegel just pipped you there at Lime Rock, so he's up to 68. So he's overtaken 3rd place. But tell me a little bit about your Elantra N. We were just talking with Jordan Wisley. Has a matching livery. It looks like $1 million. I've gotten a chance to drive one of these cars in stock N form around a racetrack. They're really, really good. But what's done to yours to make it go fast?
Like I said, we kind of were putting this thing together. We had a powwow, and we said, this is going to be really tough. In the best scenario, it's going to be hard because we're obviously based on the West Coast. The car and all the tracks are going to have to either come back and forth or live out there kind of in the Midwest and the East. So the thing that we kind of decided on was it's just got to work. We can't mess with it more than maybe a night before the race. So that being in the head, we all know in the team, everyone's like, oh, here's the wish list of here's how we would build stuff that, obviously would make it quicker. But we just said, okay, reliability is a big thing. Obviously the rule set, stay within the rules. First race, we had a little hiccup. We had some rear seats that were missing. We got that rectified halfway through, but pretty much just going into it, it's just pretty much just a lightweight car. Really, really mild tune. It's got some lightweight components like a hood and a trunk, a seat, a driver's seat, a steering wheel extender, and that's pretty much it. We're not running like the full size tire that we could run, things like that. We said, you know what, we gotta buy the tires to get through the events. We gotta basically do the stuff that's gonna make this thing run. So put money towards spares. So really there's some things that we know can make it faster, but the car's just bare bones, and that was kind of one of the other things going into it. Let's see what we could do on a car it's a legitimate street car. I think a month before we were at our first event, Mike got it like impounded in front of his house or something. So it is in every sense a real deal street car because he lived in Long Beach where they don't let you park on the street and got towed. So like it's a very much a street car, and we're running it just kind of how we would run it, knowing that it's got reliability and it still has some pace, but we knew we could grow into it.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at your season so far, everything's been a top 5 except for CMP. 6th there, 3rd at Road Atlanta, 5th at Midwest Festival, 5th at Mid-Ohio, then 4th at Road America. Now, Road America, a little bit of drama there. Had an incident in the kink. Tell me what happened there and what state the car is in now.
Yeah, so, there was an issue at CMP as well.
Yep.
So we have, when we were testing back here in California, we kind of had an idea what was happening, where we took the rear wing off the car to put a lightweight trunk, because the trunk that comes on that car is like 65 pounds or something.
Wow. Yeah.
So I built a carbon trunk skin and we put it on, and to run that, we couldn't run a wing, obviously the OEM wing. And what I think we were seeing in the data before we got all the way to Road America was anything over 120 mile an hour turn in at over like a 5-degree yaw, the rear would get really light. having run out here on the West Coast a lot, where it's like, yeah, it's manageable. You know, it gets sideways. You could kind of steer through it. In CMP, going into kind of the back section there, it bit us, and we said, whoa, you know, kind of is a big thing. And then going into Road America, it's always those circumstances where we're going. So our goal this season has always been the front wheel drive records, and we've done pretty well at those. Just knowing the car that we have, let's go and run it and see what we can do. We've come really close to all the tracks or gotten them at most of the events that we've tried really hard to get them at. And going into Road America, we were going back and forth, I think over a tenth. And it was like, hey, what do you guys want to do? We haven't put the new tires on for the race. It's the cool afternoon. Like, what are we doing? Like, let's go for it, you know? So it was one of those things where going through the kink there, that's everything that we knew the car's got a weak spot on. So we turned in, I turned in. The car's set up really loose. So as you get off the throttle, it wants to rotate because that's how that car's fast. And it went through, and on video you could see I catch it and I'm back totally on throttle, and then it just like, there's just nothing in the rear. So I hit the safer barrier and I think I bounced across the track, and then I hit the other wall and slid for 20 seconds. It was pretty gnarly.
It was not fun to watch, I'll tell you that. We didn't see it live on air, but the end result was not awesome.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, we tweaked the car pretty bad on that. So, which is unfortunate, really unfortunate. But, you know, when we're underdogging kind of as hard as we are, and we're having to try as hard as we're having to try to kind of get results that we know is in the car, you know, this kind of thing happens. The team all knew going into this, like, hey, you know, we're really having to wheel this thing to get it to do what we need it to do, and knowing the downsides, you know, it's part of the calculation. It just bit us this time, and it bit us pretty hard.
I'm interested the aero thing now that I think about it, because I remember the incident at CMP, but I hadn't, until you mentioned it just now, connected the dots that they're both in high-speed kinks.
Yeah. So it's funny because I looked at some of the Audi TT. I don't know if you remember back in the early 2000s, the Audi TT suffered from the exact situation where it gets light in the rear, and they actually had a factory recall where they put a wing on it. If you put the cars side by side, the profiles now with the no wing, it looks exactly the same. So looking at some of the data, you can see. You can start seeing, you know, little cracks in it. You're like, okay, that's more than likely what happened. And looking at you know, the video and things like that, it's like, yeah, there's not a whole lot that can be done. But it is what it is. You know, it's something to learn from. It's something we come back and I obviously have a fix for, and just keep going fast. But I think that car shines. It shines pretty well in a lot of the scenarios for some of the tracks. And there's one or two of those corners, which it is what it is. We just, you know, kind of overstep.
Yeah, so I'm curious about the solve for that, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not super into every bit of the rules in street class. You're running OEM aero, right? So, but now trunks and hoods, you can use aftermarket materials, right? So you use the carbon work, you put the trunk on. Does the OEM rear wing do enough to help assist that issue?
I don't think it's a downforce thing. I think it's a lift thing.
I see.
So
okay.
At yaw, so over 120 mile an hour turn in, over 5 degrees of yaw, it seems like the way that the air wraps under the car is what's creating it to get light. So I think what's happening is when you have a wing on it, it settles that down a lot more. It's not necessarily downforce. It could be, but there's a reason they probably put that on at the factory for the performance model. And we finally got it to the limit where we're like, that's probably why they did it. So we can actually run, they have a TCR wing, a TCR version of the car that they sell in Canada that comes with a GT wing. So we've been given the golden ticket as far as street class is concerned by Hyundai. We just haven't run that wing again because it's an issue of just, you know, we can't get out there the money's spent getting out there and doing the races, not modifying the car.
Yeah, certainly. Got it. That's fascinating to me. All right, so car tweaked pretty good, front and rear clips. Is it something that can be saved, worth saving, or is it move on to a new chassis?
I think we're moving on to a new chassis. I mean, you know, obviously anything could be fixed. Whether or not it's worth it is subjective. There's things that could be salvaged off the car, but I don't think there's much. I think what we're going to do is we've already talked to a few sponsors and talked to the N Club. The SoCal N Club guys are great, and we're trying to get something together so we could continue racing. It's hard to say kind of how that comes together because there's obviously a lot of logistics involved, and being in SoCal again and then getting a car all the way out there and then back to SoCal and then back out there. So it's not a great situation to be in, but it's not insurmountable. And I think not putting anything past the team is probably a safe bet because, obviously Josh and Mike and AJ and Jordan, everyone for that matter, hustles really hard on the team, and it's kind of a never say die thing.
Yep.
And I think it's a bit of a pride thing to go and have a strong finish and get some more front wheel drive records if we can.
For sure. And obviously the season's going pretty well up to that point. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the carbon work because Jordan had mentioned that you'd actually done some parts for his Veloster N. Again, you're not running in a class where you can do a whole lot of experimental stuff or aero stuff, but how much of that do you do?
I do quite a bit. So I'm building a few cars on the side. Driving a street class car is fun and all, but my passion really is in sort of the bigger time attack classes. So I have a couple cars that I'm building. So over the years, I've had Radicals, I've had other time attack cars, I've helped on other programs. So I've gotten pretty handy building composites. So, I built a full carbon wide body for this car that I'm building now. Transaxle LS ISF with full aero. So yeah, I did build a splitter for Jordan's car. That is one of the things that when we were, that class kind of was set and they were building the car for it. Josh reached out and said, hey, can you make a splitter for this thing? I said, yeah, no problem, let's do it. So that's one of the smaller ones I made, but the other ones are normally quite bigger. But yeah, it is unfortunate in street class, we can't really do much. So you can't have all the fun that, you would in, say, an unlimited car or whatever.
So I guess that begs the question, like, was there or is there a goal in the future to sort of explore in other categories where you can sort of use that knowledge to build?
Yeah, we've certainly talked about it as a team. Obviously coming back from crashing a car, you sort of have this, okay, what are we doing type thing. It's up in the air, obviously. I don't think it's my personal, I don't want to run street class. I'll drive anything, obviously, but if it were up to me, I think street class is a big 2-year run for anyone. I think it's more of a launching pad. That's my personal opinion. I know there's a lot of people that are perfectly happy running street class for 10 years and that's fine. But for us, it was more of a, hey, let's see if we can do this thing. Let's see what we could make this program work and learn all the things we need to learn. And then obviously exponentially more difficult as you up the class and change the car and this and that. Would we use a Hyundai Elantra? There's all of these questions that sort of that come along. We've had some good discussions, but obviously there's nothing solid yet. I think the focus is sort of, we're looking to the edge of our headlights, so to speak. We're seeing, let's get through the season. Let's see what we can do. Let's have a strong finish, like I was saying. That's really been the push.
Yeah, Spaz, Charles Miller in the comments says, I feel called out. He's one of those long time.
It's no call out.
No, it's good. But I think it's an interesting point though, because like you're fairly limited to the things that you can do in street class from a body perspective, and especially when you've got that experience, that's a big leg up when you can make your own custom parts. So I was listening to a podcast, and forgive me, I can't remember the name, but it was like the Hyundai guy at KDM Tuners, or that was working with KDM Tuner.
Yeah.
I don't know if it wasn't Josh, but it was someone that works near him. But they were talking about being the first on the scene to Hyundais and the Kia Rio, and being the first people to make it go.
It might have been Eli. Yeah.
Yes, Eli. That's who it was.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm curious, as when you're developing a car for time attack or even GLGT, I think maybe there's a bit more of a linear path on the wheel-to-wheel side, given that Hyundai's run in TCR especially. Yeah. What are some of the struggles that you face with cars that you're sort of there's not a ton of aftermarket, or maybe there is. I don't know. You have to tell me what there is.
There is, and it comes down to the people that are running these cars generally are if they're running them in a racing format similar to like a GRIDLIFE, you're usually figuring out parts on your own, or you're adapting parts from something else to fit on the car to make it faster. And good ideas are sort of good ideas across all chassis. So obviously, if you could get the CG lower, you could take weight out of it, you add a little more power, a little more brakes, it's going to pay dividends. It's just how you do that is the tough part. Obviously, Eli and Josh are very competent and knowing what makes cars work and what makes them tick. And I think coming in, having done a lot of front-wheel drive cars in the past with a Prelude program that I run in GTA, I think we sort of had good ideas of what to make it work. And then that was things like, okay, well, obviously this trunk is pretty high up and it's really heavy. What can we do? That was one of those things, right? So it's like, oh, okay, it's in the rules. We can have a trunk. Let's make a trunk. And then the rest is just setup. It's just getting familiar with what the car wants, what they like, what they don't like. We've learned a lot of lessons, and we've learned a lot of lessons that aren't specific to that chassis. You know, we have had some races where we're ready to go on Sunday morning, you know, the hot session, and then we find out that our tire gauge is reading 3 psi high, and I just came in from the hot session, and we couldn't figure out why the car wasn't going faster. So it's all these teething issues of a team and figuring out kind of what to look for and how to lean on each other, and just as little things like what spring rates work for what types of tracks and things like that are the big ones. But yeah, I think as far as parts like availability and stuff, when it's a new chassis like that, it's just you gotta just kind of figure it out as you go, and then kind of pioneer the way somewhat.
Right now, the 9 cars that are around you in the point standings are all Civic Type Rs,
Yeah.
WRX STIs, or I guess the one other outlier is Brad Moore's Porsche 708 Cayman. The Hyundai Elantra N, you know, is less expensive than all of those cars. And I think there's something to be said for the performance capability of that car in stock form already. But what have you done to kind of bring it up to the speed of these other cars to outperform them? I know that they're very strong cars in stock form, but how much have you played with the engine to get extra power out of it? I know you mentioned the carbon stuff, but
it's just a tune. We just have a pretty off-the-shelf tune. We actually didn't dyno it until we got to CMP, I don't think. So it was pretty off-the-shelf tune, and we were working through some things with that. It's not totally nailed in yet, but it's getting close. We have a great sponsor at Neotech. They've got some coilovers that are, it's an off-the-shelf unit, but it's more to show like, hey, you know, this stuff can go fast if you put it on the car. We've got some brakes, so big brake kit. I think one of the major, one of the things the car does really well is the braking Gs, and being able to kind of get the car to turn with brakes a little bit is how I like to drive front-wheel drive. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. We don't need to really do anything with cooling. We haven't done anything with cooling like a FK8 needs or an FL5 needs. I've come from the Honda world. I ran Honda Time Attack Challenge for a long time. I've had Hondas of all sorts. Owned a spoon car, like a legit spoon car, things like that. So I'm no stranger to that thing. And going into the Elantra, when I bought my Elantra, I bought a Elantra N. The one that we drive is not mine, it's owned by Mike Duke. But I had a car that was a DCT car, and I just was like, I just want something I can just show up. If I'm doing instructing, I can have someone hop in, I don't have to do anything, and I could drive it to work. And they're great cars. You could, if anyone asks me, what's the car? I have this amount of money, I've got 1 parking space, what's the car? It's a no-brainer for me. They're really excellent cars. And it goes to show, I mean, we're in essentially what is more or less a stock car with a seat and a tune and some off-the-shelf coilovers. Nothing fancy, literally nothing fancy other than that. And it's going pretty quick, and we can reset some of the front-wheel drive records, which was the goal going into it.
What do you think is the performance ceiling of this car? You know, with that, before you start really tearing it apart and turning it into a track mod car, you know, how much more power can it take? Is this all known in this community? Like,
yeah, I think so. I think there's people that, you know, you always get the guys that are like, oh, I got 460 on mine, but they drive 5 miles to community college and back, and it's like, okay, what we're doing is completely different than that.
Right.
You start getting the higher tier tuners and things like that are like, okay, if you want this, you're going to need to do this, this, and that. There's some stuff I think that we had to do first, like a fuel pump, things like that. But you're not doing some crazy, like, oh, you got to swap this trans from this model in to make this, like, all of that just works, which is kind of one of the large reasons that we're happy in the platforms, because we don't have to worry about it too much when we're all the way like 3,000 miles from home type thing. I think the performance ceiling, if you wanted to, I've heard people are making around 400 plus, I think, but I don't know in a race scenario. Like, I don't know if I would count on that working the whole time. But I do know that the motor is relatively cheap. They're really easy to work on. So, you know, it might be one of those time attack programs of old where it's like, yeah, you're swapping the motor on Saturday night, but it goes quick on Sunday morning. So, I think the car has potential. I would be really curious to take a car like that and build it with a splitter and a wing and just do the things that we know makes cars quicker, and see where it gets to, because that car is the most similar to, say, like a DC2 Type R that I've driven outside of a DC2 Type R. It's got that same feel where it's just really fun. It wants to rotate. It brakes really well, and they're relatively quick.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about Grid Life so far? I mean, from what I understand, you've been around here and there in the past, but this is really your first full season effort, as I understand. I talked to Jordan a little bit about his experiences because he's got the whole experience in IMSA and running TCR cars. But, I'm always interested in the perspective of a driver who's relatively new to the Grid Life paddock. How you feel about where it is and its place in the grassroots motorsport.
Oh, it's great. People ask me, obviously from the West Coast here, I've got friends of mine that are really heavy in the time attack scene and all that. And when Grid Life comes out here, the vibe, it's different. But when you go back east and you see sort of how big it is back east, I tell them you gotta just go. You gotta see kind of how these events are back east, and go to Midwest Fest and just get your mind blown that there's like a whole stage. It's wild. It's really crazy, especially coming from SoCal, where we have a lot of events, but they're usually smaller, and there's no spectators of any sort, or anything like that. There's not even a food truck. It's just like, yeah, you go get the little burger from the shack that's on premises, things like that. So it really feels like if you go to like an IMSA race, for example, or you go to see like IndyCar run or any of those things, it's like, wow, I'm at that event, but I'm also driving in that event. And that is something that like I haven't experienced really outside of doing like GTA in Long Beach, like at the Long Beach Grand Prix, or maybe going to COTA or doing some other events with some other organizations around that are like that. But yeah, Grid Life itself it's crazy. Like just the atmosphere when you get to those tracks. And a lot of those tracks I've been to, but I haven't been to when they're in this format with like, here's all the competitors, the Rush guys are over here, the GLGT guys are over here, TT guys, whatever. It's absolutely insane. You show up and you see kind of how many people are into it and like how into it they are. It's sort of it's a really cool feeling to be part of that. So I think that's kind of what got the whole team hooked on all this stuff. Is the first one is when we went to Laguna and we saw that, like, oh, this is sort of in our territory in a way, but it's totally different than anything we typically run out here. So it's a lot of fun to be part of something that's that big. And I have a soft spot for all the little ghetto stuff that I do every other weekend, but it's really cool. It's definitely becoming some of my favorite.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. I'm also curious, and I started asking this to all of our guests now because it feels like the right place to ask. We get to chat with you one-on-one, and this is the Grid Life drivers meeting. If there was one thing that you could change about Grid Life, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like there's little nitpicky things.
Sure.
But
nitpicky things are allowed. I'm just asking.
But having run events, I know why they're the way that they are. Yeah. Because normally from a perspective of a driver, it's like, oh, I wish that, they weren't drifting right before the time attack session.
Right.
For example, it's like, we're all here to go fast. It's like, well, we couldn't really rent this facility. Look at this place without having those eyes. We need the whole show to be here. So it's just really, it's things like that are just me being a selfish time attack guy. Sure. That I would say. But I mean, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I know that everyone on that side of things works so hard at this. Just being tangentially, rubbing up against it here and there on the race weekends. It's really cool to see kind of what it's become, and just hearing the stories just through listening to the podcast. Like it's been a huge growth in a very short amount of time. So the lack of things that I would say, oh, you should change this and do this differently, whatever, is, I mean, it's pretty insane. It means that everyone is moving real fast and they're really concerned with creating a good, solid event for people, which I can appreciate because I love good, solid events where I get track out.
Yeah, let's try to make it better each and every week.
Right.
Are there any updates on your progress for the next build, I know you mentioned that there's some things happening. Anything you could share, or is it still sort of up in the air?
We've had some good talks. I think we're closing in on some stuff that we think is going to be a go. Obviously, picking up a whole nother car, like here's cash for another car is really hard when, okay, now we've paid 30 grand and you got to get the car out. It's where it needs to go by the 11th. And it's things like that. So again, we've talked to the sponsors and I think we're in a good spot. I don't know if there's anything super solid yet. We're really, really, really committed to pushing to make it to Chicago. Hopefully it's a big ask, obviously. That's a big train to get moving on. You get the car and get stuff put on it to make it worth the trip to get out there. So it's actually going to be quick, things like that. But I think there's some good stuff. There's nothing solid. I wish I could sit here and say, hey, we're doing this, 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 and this. I don't know. But I know that the push is there to make all of that happen if we can.
Well, Will, I wish you the best on that, and keep us updated. I think we're all looking forward to it. We're actually really excited because we are streaming Autobahn in Chicagoland, which we haven't done in a couple of years. So we're excited for that. We're streaming everything for the rest of the year. So we hope to see you back out there, and appreciate your time and joining us here tonight.
Of course.
Thanks, Willem. Have a good one. We'll see you at Autobahn.
Take
Hopefully.
care.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Willem Drees from KDM Tuners and Jordan Wisley giving us some updates. Really interesting. And again, I think there's so much we can learn from what Hyundai is doing right now with their track cars and how much of a great platform they are. But that's all fantastic stuff. We were just looking at points for street class, and the time attack points are updated. I think Sans Track Mod and Unlimited. But the everything else is updated here, so we'll do a quick little rundown on these. I haven't done GLTC, and it's getting slow getting back into the office here, so bear with me here. We just got the GLTC races uploaded. But let's go through the points while we're here of what has been updated. Club SC has Mike Jansen still out in front, but Sam Dooling, big gain with a win and a track record at Lime Rock, so that gives Sam his first P1 of the year. Closes in within 10 points of Mike Jansen. Then Jason Davidson gained a couple of spots there with his fourth. Rest of the field there, Austin O'Brien, you see 34 points. He's only done one other event. Similar with a lot of the drivers down the list. So that's Club SC. Falcon Club TR. This one is getting spicy, everybody. Peter Granberg leads now by 4 points. I think he was third coming into this event behind Mario Moroni and Jeremy Bailey. But Granberg, 85 points over Evan McLaren at 81. McLaren was 6th before this weekend, but a second place and filling out his 4th event of the year puts him up into 2nd. And then Jeremy Bailey right behind. Solid 3rd place. Really strong run for Jeremy on Saturday afternoon. Keeps him a very, very tight 3rd. And Mario was not present, so he drops to 4th with that 77. So still an 8-point spread across the top 4 drivers is really unbelievable. Of course, some honorable mentions here. Jason Gatos in the number 997 BRZ. I don't know. Climbing up the order just a little ways up into 10th place. Michael Budai had a great round there, 4th Club TR. So that one's a battleground. And then we were looking at street class already. Josh Halka winning his 3rd event of the year. Just needs one more to basically lock down the champ. Really hard for anyone else to beat him at the stage. Mike Coons present, but Eddie Siegel got a front-wheel drive record up into 3rd place. Cody Umba, 3rd place in class with his car. Up in Street GT, no records broken this weekend, but Nick Hendricks picked up his first win of the year. Ryan Matthews in 2nd place. And then in 3rd place, Mark Kilgore. He talked to him in the GRIDLIFE GT broadcast. He kind of bounced off the Armco, slipped up on the curbing there. But all the damage was just to the right front wheel and a couple of arms. But no body damage on that car, so he should be good to go. Picked up his third place of the year, still hunting an elusive 1st place after a 2nd at CM. Street Mod, Dewey locks up another win. That is his 3rd straight track record and win. He's crushing it. And Baz told me that Andy Holst is going to be at Autobahn and Pit. That's going to be big for street class. Yeah, Mark, that just goes to show you how competitive it is in Street GT, though, with the podium being as aggressive as it is. But Street Mod, Dewey is looking really strong. One more of these weekends and no one can beat him. So Ryan Matthews is doing a good job. Cal Fortner, Jimmy Santos tied for 3rd. Luca Barberis, Kyle McHugh, who won't be running with us anymore this year. Really, this is your battle, these top 5. Luca brings the Super back out. Fun. And the Track Mod Unlimited have yet to be updated. But as far as race results, we might as well do that here while we're here. The GLTC. These races are uploaded on YouTube now as of today. The rest of the series coming out tomorrow. It was Andy Smedegard on pole. Here's your race 1 results. Paul Darling getting his 1st win of the year. Tips are working. Realize that worked. Highlight when you hover over the driver. That's cool. Yeah, Aaron Lichty up in the mix. That was all race 1. Race 2, Paul Darling picked up his second win. Right behind Eric Catil. Eric finished 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, with Andy picking up race 3, Eric Catil picking up race 4. Ina Chin, 7th place in the last 2 races. Good weekend for her. Then in the Rush Series stuff, it was really just Blair and Ryan all weekend long. Blair won qualifying, and then race 1, race 2. Then it was Leach in race 3 and Leach in race 4. So you see just really not a lot of shuffling. The top 5 the same in race 3 and 4. Race 1 and 2 also pretty similar. So there's that. And then GLGT, I got to fix some stuff on here. But AJ Hartman won qualifying. Then it was James Houghton all 4 races. Corporal picking up a podium in there. Pretty fun to watch. The Fire Laps graphics were working great. That was super, super fun. So a great weekend at Lime Rock. I love that place. And we also, if you didn't hear, we've announced a 3-year extension with Lime Rock Park. So we'll be going there through 2028, which is incredibly exciting because who doesn't love Lime Rock? Who doesn't love Circuit Legends? What an awesome event. That's going to wrap things up tonight for the GridLife Drivers meeting. We're going to do some more next week. I'm going to take a little vacation at the talked about. So more videos coming on YouTube tomorrow, so keep your eyes peeled for those. And let us know who you want to see next week. There's a couple of people I'm considering bringing on. There are a couple of people who reached out to me. But use the Discord. Pop on in there and let me know who you want to see on the drivers meeting next week. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Big thanks to KDM Tuners and Josh Sadler for hooking me up with some time with Jordan Wisley and with Willem Drees. And thanks, everyone. This is a fun one. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week for the GridLife Drivers meeting.